Welcome to the second session of Destination Transformation. I'm Dr. LaVerne Adams, your navigational guide to a totally fulfilling, pretty amazing, completely rewarding dream life. I'm so excited to share this journey with you, and in this session I'm going to share the ride of a lifetime as we get on the road to your rediscovery. I'm going to show you the value of tapping into the dreams that you have in your heart as a way to have a more fulfilled life. And you'll discover how to open up a new sense of wonder. You'll find out what you need to do in order to move forward successfully with clarity, insight, and vision. You'll learn how to change your attitude and ultimately how to change your future. But first I want to ask you a few questions. Is your life stagnant? Do you currently have experience that broaden your life or limit you? Are you about ready for a fresh wind of enthusiasm to blow through your life and change you like never before? Well, that's really what this session is all about. And it was Galileo who said, "You cannot teach a man anything. You can only help him discover it in himself." And that's what this session is all about, to help you discover what's already deep on the inside of you. And I want to make sure that you get your dream fulfilled, that you live the best life possible and the best life ever. One of the most vital gifts that we could ever have in life is the gift of wonder. And so from the time we were born, we go through a series of discoveries. We discover taste and sight and sound. When we are born healthy, we have the opportunity to experience these great and awesome things. And when we were young, we were free to let our imagination soar. And these moments helped us to shape and bring interest to our lives. And there wasn't anything that we ever dreamed was impossible when we thought about being firemen and policemen and nurses and doctors and lawyers. And we had all of these dreams of going to the moon. And, you know, when we were younger, we were uninhibited in our imagination. But as we get older, and as we got older, we become less imaginative. And then one day, the unimaginable happens. Life takes an unexpected turn, and we find ourselves disillusioned, and we lose our sense of wonder. And all we have to do is live a little while, and we'll understand exactly what that means. People will do things to us that hurt us, hurt our feelings, and maybe even hurt us emotionally and physically. We may lose a loved one. We may lose a race or do poorly on a test. Things that make life just turn a little differently, put a little more color to our lenses, that may darken our approach to and outlook to life. Sometimes life takes a sudden turn that is totally unexpected, and we are not always ready for it. But what that does, it causes us to not dream quite the way we used to, with such freedom and liberality, because now we have experienced some things that turns that around. And sometimes there are circumstances that are beyond our control that cause us to get stuck in dysfunctional zones. And last session we talked about the things that we didn't have control of, where we were born, and what day we were born, or hour we were born, or the parents we were born to. Some of us were born, we may have considered the wrong side of the tracks, or in a situation with a dysfunctional family with alcoholism and drug addiction and poverty and crime, and some of us may even have been born with a silver spoon in our mouths. But it doesn't negate the fact that there are still some issues and circumstances there that may have been dysfunctional. For example, you may have had a parent who worked so hard that they never spent time with you, and someone else raised you, and so you have a disconnection to the person that actually was your biological parent. And that does some different things on the inside of us, mentally, physically, mentally and emotionally. And so we get stuck in these dysfunctional zones, and a lot of it sometimes is things that we have no control over. But fortunately, we're going to talk about the things that we do have control over. In a small review, a short, brief review, we talked about this technique of recreation, and we could recreate the end of our story so that we can really transform the bad memories that we have. And it is going to take practice and it's going to take time, but it will definitely move to transform your life. And so we have come up against some tragedies and crises that affect our life in a negative way, and these are moments that cause us to discontinue this a sense of dreaming and wonder and discovery, because life happens. And then we end up in the danger zone, because sometimes it happens and it keeps happening and it keeps coming at us, and it's out of control, and then life becomes dissatisfying, it becomes dull, it becomes dreary, and then we get to the point where we can't see our way out. And if anybody knows what that feels like and looks like, I do. I hit rock bottom with a horrible divorce after 25 years of marriage. Lost the love of my life to an illicit affair, and just the broken dreams, and having to try to hold on to what was left, and then really coming to grips with the fact that it would no longer be able to continue. I was devastated. And so oftentimes many of us have come through those scenarios, and it can become a very, very, very dark place. And I had gotten to the point where I didn't even believe I had a future, and I didn't even believe I had a destiny. And it was people and courses and materials like this that helped me to shape, transform, and totally have a transformed, changed life. And so I'm so excited about the opportunity to share this course with you, this e-course, so that you too can change your life. If you are at a place of dissatisfaction and you're unfulfilled, this course is going to help change all of that. As you do the work that it takes, you will move from where you are to exactly where you want to be. Now, I want to say this. There is no such thing as a perfect life. And so I want to give you permission to just be who you are and where you are. Where you are is where you are. Where you're at is where you're at. And we don't have to compete. We don't have to compare. This is where you are. You have lemons. Let's make some lemonade. And so I want to give you an opportunity to think about some of the things that may have been lost due to trauma and grief, which are just a part of life. And when those things happen, we lose our sense of wonder, and we lose the ability to envision, a bright and viable future for ourselves. And so the solution now can be found in what I want to call on the road to rediscovery. And thankfully, we're on that road right now, and I'm so glad that we're taking the journey together. I'm right here by your side, and I want to share with you my story so that you can understand how to pick yourself back up no matter where you've fallen from. And I remember when my whole life went down the tubes. I lost my job, I lost my home. I had gotten from the divorce so low, I couldn't see a future for myself. And as I mentioned, I didn't feel like I had a destiny, but one day the light came on and I got an epiphany, and the words and the revelation that I got as I said a prayer and asked God to please show me how to get up from here. I got a complete revelation, which I'm sharing with you in this e-course, and it literally, these proven strategies have totally shifted my life. And so in order for you to fulfill your destiny, you have to once again regain this sense of discovery and wonder, and I want to to give you permission, and I want to help ignite the power of the dream that you once had in your heart. I want to help you to move away from the terrible pit that you might find yourself in, a pit of depression, of low self-esteem, of despondency. I want to encourage you and inspire you so that you can dream again and you can move from where you are to go to where you want to be. And so you might be asking yourself, how in the world have I gotten so low? And this is probably why you signed on for this course, because sometimes we get so low, we don't even know where to go or who to talk to. And that's why I felt the need and the urgency to do this course exactly for people like you. I did it for you because I didn't want you to be alone. I want you to know that somebody's here, somebody understands, and that there is a way out. And so you might ask yourself, how did I get to this place? And so when things seem to go so bad, and when things seem to go so wrong, I want you to know that there is hope. And even in spite of traumatic circumstances, there are ways to get out. And that is, we have to get out of a box that we put ourselves in, this protective box that we put ourselves in, so that no one else, we think, can harm us. And that keeps us from actually getting the blessings and the goodness and all the great opportunities. And that sometimes is why we are limited in our performance, because we have made a decision, I'm not going any further in one area, and when we do that, we don't go further in other areas. And so it's critical, absolutely critical, that we begin to reignite the sense of wonder and passion so that we can break out of this protective comfort zone to get us to our highest dimension, to be higher performing and live a higher level of life and better quality of life. And so there are many factors that cause us to feel connected to people, places, and things. And sometimes they're not always good for us. And the reason why we feel that we need to connect to those things is because they connect to the darker, deeper part of us, from memories and things that happen to us that keep us right where we are in a box. And sometimes we do things that we know are not good for us. We are with people, we go places we know that are not right, and somehow we feel that we have no options, we have no choices, and we subconsciously organize our lives around this dysfunctional, familiar place. And so regardless of how dysfunctional things have become, we sense this illusion of stability. Why? Because it's something that we know, it's something that we feel comfortable with. We feel compelled to maintain the status quo. It gives us a sense of security, even though we know it's not good and we know it's unhealthy. I don't know if you're there, but I know I've been there, and I know what it feels like, I know what it looks like, and we make excuses for it, and we can go to a story of a dysfunctional family, and on the outside everything looks just wonderful, but on the inside there's a lot of pain, and there's a lot of hurt. And I can honestly say I worked really hard not to get a divorce, and for 2 years I watched an illicit relationship with my husband and another woman, and it was just the most painful thing I could ever imagine. But I stayed in that situation, and I wouldn't advise it to anyone, but I stayed there because it was a familiar place. I didn't know where I was going to go, and I know there are a lot of people out there just like that. You build a comfort zone in an unhealthy place that is familiar to you because you don't know where else to go, you don't know what else to do, and that is the place where you feel a sense of security, but it's also a place that's very painful and very dangerous. And so this is the reason sometimes the reason why we stay there, and the reason why we protect toxic environments and toxic relationships is because it is the familiar. It's all we know. We don't know of any other, we don't believe that we have any other options. And even though it's not what we want, it's all we know. And we get there because we have lost our sense of hope. And that's what the sense of wonder is really all about. It helps us to hope for more and dream for more. And when trauma and crisis come into our lives, it cuts off that sense of dream. It cuts off our dreams. And if we stay there, we will never realize those dreams. And so we have to get free from the bondage of the familiar, because sometimes the familiar and the comfort zone is so toxic and so dangerous that it will ultimately lead to our destruction. And we will have to make an intentional and conscious decision that no matter what it takes, we are willing to do whatever we have to do to shift out of this dangerous comfort zone. And the very first step that we need to take on this road to your rediscovery is to be intentional about remembering what makes you smile. What is the thing that brings you joy? What is the thing that makes you happy? Think again about the thing that makes your heart sing. And I remember in my deepest, darkest place, I always dreamed about writing a book, and I've always dreamed about being on a platform just like this one. And my life was so dark and so horrific that I couldn't see that dream anymore. It was like I had blinders on. It didn't even seem like it could ever be possible again. And I knew that something had to happen. But all I could do was to connect to the dream on the inside of me, to remind myself that I was a good person. I have something good to offer. I have something great to give. I have something great to do. And it was the reminder of that. I reconnected with that. It was the only thing that literally saved my life. And so if you want to live a satisfying life, it is absolutely